Hello. Listening to vibrations amplified by the earth is how I know that stuff has happened. So what's up? When is the last time that you checked your cornfield for millions of dollars worth of coins? Never? Are you some kind of dingus? An anonymous dude in Kentucky found over 800 Civil War era gold coins in a cornfield. It is valued at over $1 million, possibly multiples of millions. According to Jeff Garrett, Bitcoin boy in Kentucky, the contents of this find are like unbelievably rare. The discovery is being referred to as the Great Kentucky Horde, which is excellent. Here is a quote from the coin boy. Finding one mint condition 1863 double eagle would be an important numismatic event. Finding nearly a roll of superb examples is hard to comprehend. This is the functional equivalent of reaching into your winter coat pocket and finding a 20. Just a really big deal. A very good day. Did you all see the zeet that I posted to X? It got a lot of rezeets. Oh, you're not on X? I'm on X. I love X. In a late night, completely unprompted tweet, Elon Musk decided to just shit-can the entire Twitter brand and rebrand it all to X. Getting rid of the bird logo, possibly getting rid of the name entirely and just calling it X. The dude's got a hard-on for having a company called X. He's been trying to do this for a long time. And so he purchased Twitter for $44 billion. And then he got rid of the staff. And then he got rid of the Twitter. Very cool. Wonderful business acumen. Anyway, as we all know, suddenly changing your brand entirely is a very easy thing to do and makes a lot of sense. Taking 15 some odd years of brand recognition and just throwing it in the toilet is a very good idea, especially if you want to retain advertisers and users. Anyway, something that I actually want to talk about with this is that his whole plan with making the X app is that he wants to make an everything app like how WeChat is in China. If you're not familiar with WeChat, it's an everything app. It's like a messaging app, it's also a payment method, it's also a store, it's everything. You have to have WeChat, essentially. It's the exact kind of thing that we point and say, look, China bad. But Elon Musk wants to do exactly that, because it's okay when a rich white guy does it. That's how you do it right. Florida has new education standards, as put out by their Board of Education. These new education standards are to teach middle schoolers that slaves benefited from slavery. Yes, the absolutely unnecessary railing against critical race theory is now manifesting as teaching kids that slaves benefited from slavery. They learned important life skills as slaves. It's important to consider both sides of the slave debate. Anyway, these guidelines were put out before, and the Florida Teachers Union was like, hey, no? Nah, make some changes, dog. And they didn't make changes. And now it's published as a PDF that you can read. In the actual section, there's a clarification point that makes it very clear that you should teach, quote, how slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Just some on-the-job training. I don't know. This is a state institution putting out these recommendations, run by a guy who's trying to become president. I don't think we should let him become president. Anyway, Netflix stock went down, so Netflix did their earnings stuff, and while their signups are way up, they missed their earnings. By a little bit. They were expected to get $8.3 billion in earnings, and they got $8.2 billion in earnings. And because of that, their stock tumbled 20%. So the Writers and the Actors Guild are on strike because streaming services aren't paying them very well. And Netflix only made $8.2 billion in revenue, which is just not enough. And so their stock got eviscerated. It seems like this is a system that makes a lot of sense. I think it's very important to make sure that Netflix generates $8.3 billion in revenue next time, because otherwise, what are we even doing here? Hey, pay people. Who gives a shit about profit? You can't do anything with profit. It just gets hoarded. It doesn't help humanity. Jesus fucking Christ. I don't know about you, but I don't think my purpose in life is to create profit. That's a pretty narrow and sad purpose in life. On this day in the year 1411, the Battle of Harlow took place in Scotland. There were some barons in the north, there were some barons in the west, and they had a competing claim on the same spot, and they were like, I'm just gonna beat the shit out of you for it. And so they did that. It's considered one of the bloodiest battles ever fought in Scotland, with over 1,500 people dying on the battlefield. There was no clear victor. Lightning round. Here's the weapon. A couple who conspired to launder $4.5 billion of stolen crypto is going to plead guilty to that. The Department of Justice is planning to sue Texas over the buoys that Texas deployed into the river to try to stop migrants from getting across. and also making them drown. A 13-year-old girl who was kidnapped has been rescued. She was abducted in Texas and found in California after she made a help me sign and put it up in the car window. Amazon is working on construction for a big warehouse to house their upcoming internet satellite thing, kind of like Starlink, but this time Jeff Bezos does it. Ford has received a $9.2 billion loan from the government to create electric vehicle battery factories. Remember those cluster bombs that we sent to Ukraine and people were like, oh, they're not going to use them as cluster bombs, they're just looking for the munitions that are included in the cluster bombs. Well, Ukraine's now using the cluster bombs as cluster bombs. They're saying it's very effective. I'm sure it is. And finally for today, the law that was passed years ago in Arizona that restricted your ability to record police activity has finally been struck down as unconstitutional. This is because it's unconstitutional, but boy howdy do cops love unconstitutional. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Stuff Keeps Happening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that kind of stuff. It very, very much helps. It is Monday. I'm going to be live this afternoon on my Twitch with Stuff Keeps Happening Plus live bonus edition. I'm going to be going over everything I went over today in more detail and having a conversation with chat about it all. So I'd love to see you there. Head to twitch.tv/I'm_Endeavorance. I'll see you then, 2 p.m. Eastern. My name is Endeavorance. I'll be back on Wednesday. Take care and be well.